Tak, gotowa. Good evening, my name is Gabriela Jelonek and you are watching News in Depth. Most likely, Bulgaria is heading towards its 8th snap elections in 5 years, after mass anti-government protests forced Rosen Zhelyazkov government to step down. Our guest Paweł Trzaskowski, TVP World Balkans Correspondent, is here to explain the current issues in Bulgaria. Good evening, Paweł.
Always a pleasure.
2026 started in Bulgaria with some storms. Joining Eurozone, also President stepped down from his position. So what will happen next? What are your expectations?
Well, the storms happened actually at the end of 2025 with mass protests on the streets of Bulgaria, unseen in the country for a long time, and then with the government actually stepping down.
Mm-hmm. And President Rosen Zhelyazkov said he's stepping down from his office in January 2026 after also this mass protest. What was behind this decision?
Well, it's hard to say really what was in Rosen Zhelyazkov's mind when he was resigning from his post 2 weeks ago, actually, as we speak. This is the first such incident in the history of Bulgaria, and, well, the country is heading into uncharted territory, definitely.
So let's listen to what he said after stepping down from his office.
Today's political class betrayed the hopes of Bulgarians by compromising with the oligarchy. 2/3 no longer vote, and a new public contract is needed. Our democracy will not survive if we leave it to corrupt individuals, appeasers and extremists. It depends on the personal commitment of each of us.
Compromising with oligarchy, that's what Rosen Zhelyazkov said. What can be his political future? Because there are some rumors that he can create his own political party.
Certainly. I mean, it's unlikely that he resigned from the post, which is largely ceremonial in Bulgaria. The president doesn't really hold that much power in the country. It's unlikely that he resigned purely to, become a retired man. There are rumors, as you mentioned, that he might start his own political party. However, the future of this project is still very uncertain.
What are his political views?
Well, Rosen Zhelyazkov, as of now, his views are as uncertain as the future of his political party. He is a man at the moment very hard to read. In the past, he was cozying up to the openly pro-Russian Revival Party in Romania. He was also quite skeptical about the country adopting the common European currency. Most possibly these will be the themes that will permeate in his future political career, but as I said, it is still quite unclear what he is going to present if he forms a political party.
Mm-hmm. International watchdogs marked that these anti-Euro narratives were orchestrated by Russia and also echoed by pro-Russian politicians in Bulgaria. Can be that also the Zhelyazkov case?
That what?
Orchestrating the...
He was orchestrating the...
Yeah, that's a question.
Propaganda. I have no idea, absolutely no.
Mm-hmm. And what were the narratives, anti-EU and anti-Euro narratives in Bulgaria?
Well, there was one funny that I remember, because the Bulgarian euro coin is the first coin in the Eurozone that has writings in Cyrillic. And there were these narratives present online that these coins will not be accepted outside Bulgaria because of the Cyrillic alphabet. So that was quite funny.
Mm-hmm. And what are, maybe our viewers can see right now, the Bulgarian euro coins, and with some marks from Bulgaria as the nation and the country. What are the specific signs from Bulgaria on the Bulgarian euro?
So there is one side of the coin that shows the national symbol of Bulgaria, which is a knight, a warrior, killing a lion with a spear. And the lion is present in many national emblems of Bulgaria. And this is very interesting, actually, because non-coincidentally, the Bulgarian currency used to be called lev, which is lion in English. And on the side of this coin, the lev is being killed by the euro, which is a coincidence, but unfortunate.
Yeah, and what is interesting, if I remember well, there's also a sign stotinka in Cyrillic, which was the small coin in the previous currency, but it's also written on the euro cent, Bulgarian euro cent.
That is obviously a nod to the Bulgarian heritage, right? So they did transfer from lev to euro, but they kept the stotinkis instead of European cents.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice touch.
While around 40% of Bulgarians are not supporting this change, let's listen what Bulgarians said about this change in the recent days.
My expectations for adopting the euro are positive. I do not think there will be anything to worry about. Quite the opposite. We will only benefit from this, and it will only be more useful for us. Anyone who goes on a trip will not have problems exchanging currency. Now everything will be normal. Even the people in the shops are already prepared and have no worries about accepting Bulgarian leva and giving euros back in change. These are normal things that we will get used to in a week. I am not optimistic for the very objective reasons that right now is probably the most inappropriate time, given the situation in all of Europe. These are my concerns. I don't think anyone has anything against the euro as a currency, but rather the timing. And ultimately, I do not believe that erasing and eliminating the Bulgarian lev within the span of a single month is the best approach. We are in Europe, and that is where we belong. Another issue is that our history has been quite difficult, because at times we have been drawn in certain directions. As long as a person is alive, there is always hope. We were building socialism, communism, but I do not see it as having succeeded. The Eurozone is where we belong. Bulgaria has an old history.
So, Paweł, until the end of January, Bulgarians are able to pay in both currencies. And what they were facing and being afraid most was price increase. So, did really prices change for now? Do we know?
We only have early data at the moment, but from what we know, the transfer to euro has not been a major shock to Bulgarians as of now. It is important to remember that Bulgarian lev has been pegged first to the German mark and then to euro since late 1990. So it had a fixed exchange rate. And there were reports that there were some opportunistic moves to round up the prices higher than lower in the exchange to euro. However, no major price hikes have been reported so far.
Mm-hmm. So what we can expect now, Bulgaria will face both presidential and parliamentary elections. When?
Well, that's an interesting case, you know, because we keep saying that Bulgaria has had like 8 governments so far, maybe 9, depending on how you count, whether you factor in interim governments, snap elections, and so on and so forth. But maybe, I dare to say, chaos is Bulgaria's modus operandi. Maybe this is how the country manages to function. I mean, a week ago, interim Prime Minister Rosen Zhelyazkov signed Bulgaria's accession into the Board of Peace. Bulgaria entered the Eurozone on the 1st of January without major disruptions. So maybe we should not worry all that much about elections and governments and presidents if the country continues to function. I don't know.
Well, that's a good conclusion, because it seems that Bulgaria is playing both directions, if we can say so. First, getting closer with the European Union, as you mentioned about the Eurozone, and second, Donald Trump's Board of Peace, and also tightening some relations with Russia, because Bulgaria is openly saying that they're against, for example, banning Russian gas.
Are they?
Yes. That's what, for example, Rumen Radiev mentioned.
Well, Bulgaria is certainly trying to play on a couple of instruments at the same moment. However, a year ago, the became the full member of the Schengen area, and now with the adoption of euro, I think they are decisively on a pro-European course, with some pro-Russian narratives mainly distributed by the Revival Party. It is interesting, the Board of Peace is an interesting example, because they are one of the 3 countries in the region, in Europe actually, to sign it. It will be very interesting to see where it goes from there.
And it will cost a lot.
Well, the permanent membership is supposed to cost a lot, $1 billion, if I'm not wrong. However, I don't know if there is political will in Bulgaria to become the permanent member. Maybe they just want to be members until the end of Donald Trump's second term for the 3 years. This is for free, so.
In the last Rule of Law Index report, Bulgaria has slipped 2 spots to 61st place. According to EU countries as well, is the last one alongside Hungary. This Rule of Law Index is showing the elections, independence, and including Romania, Bulgaria, and somehow preparing for protecting democracy. How countries, and especially Bulgaria as a country in the region, is preparing for the next elections and protecting democracy, especially if we are talking about social media?
Well, we have to wait and see. For the moment, we've seen some protests this year in Bulgaria after the government collapsed. The protests that called for fair elections. We still don't know when they will be held. The first idea was to hold them at the end of March. Now the idea of the end of April is actually being floated. We'll have to wait and see, but as we've already mentioned, Bulgaria proves that it can govern itself without a government and now without a permanent president pretty well. So I think there is no rush.
But the protests were mostly, participants of the protests were mostly young people, Gen Z, which obviously were shouting, screaming, saying that we don't want governments which are corrupted, and you should protect democracy also in social media.
That was actually something new in Bulgaria, because Bulgaria has not seen participation of a young generation in politics for many years. And now, as you rightly mentioned, Gen Z is finally all of a sudden on the streets. And well, I think the question that all the political parties in Bulgaria are asking themselves now is, why are they on the streets now, and what can we do to convince them that we are the right choice? Now, according to the latest polls, 40% of voters in Bulgaria do not know who they will vote for, and that will be obviously the decisive voice. As we mentioned at the beginning, Rumen Radev might be starting his own political project, and maybe he will be targeting this electorate. Others are also trying to source their votes. There are interesting developments, definitely, for the months to come.
And talking about the EU law as well, enforcing AI Act, Digital Services Act, for example, in other European countries, how Bulgaria is preparing to implement that and to protect next elections? Because looking at the region, we have the case of Moldova, or we have the case of Romania, we have the case of Albania, which banned TikTok right before the elections last year. Is it somehow a trend in the region, for example, banning social media, or somehow protecting democracies by taking a closer look on political adverts on social media?
I'm not that sure that Bulgaria is that afraid of foreign interference when it comes to its electoral process. I mean, it might be targeted just like any other country in the region, just like Poland was afraid during the presidential campaign. But interestingly, you mentioned Moldova, and that was the country that, well, it took a lot of flack from Russian barrage of disinformation, but it seems that the pro-democratic forces in the country are riding the wave of Euro enthusiasm at the moment. They managed to win. Maja Sandu, who was in Warsaw this week, triumphant because, well, it is her party that was victorious, and they claim that they managed to, push the threat of Russian online intervention away from Moldova.
Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned Maja Sandu, let's listen to her soundbite, what she said about protecting EU democracy, Europe's mainly, not only EU.
Mm-hmm.
Be protected. Freedom of expression must be protected from fake accounts posing as free voices. Artificial intelligence must be governed with care. Taken together, these are acts of democratic self-defense, and they define whether democracy remains a living system or becomes an open target. So we must move faster than the threat and take the initiative. The Council of Europe was created for moments like this, not when democracy is comfortable, but when it is contested. Moldova's presidency of the Council of Europe will act with this responsibility in mind.
So, Paweł, as the Balkans correspondent, what are your plans for the next trips? Are you going to Bulgaria to, maybe, we don't know when the elections will happen, but maybe you explain more issues from the Bulgaria and the region soon.
It looks like a busy time, a busy year in the region. You're right, when Bulgaria might be the first place that I'll be reporting from, but who knows, because we have very interesting developments also in Serbia, also in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina will hold parliamentary elections, general elections in autumn this year, and this means that all the tiers of government in Bosnia will have to change, and this follows snap presidential elections in Republika Srpska from last year. A lot of very complicated developments in the country. Very interesting to see actually whether the openly pro-Russian forces in Republika Srpska will start losing grip on their part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Serbia, as I mentioned, yesterday we had protests in Belgrade, the continuation of anti-government protests that started in November 2024 with people opposing the corruption and state capture of the ruling Serbian Progressive Party and the country's president Aleksandar Vučić. They demanded snap elections, and they got it. They will have snap elections this year. The date is still not known. However, the protesters from a social movement are already transforming into a political movement. I was told that they have lists prepared for the elections, and they will announce them once it is known when the elections will be held.
And again, in Serbia, students are protesting, so Gen Z is taking into account everything that is happening with their countries. Can we say something like that? Or this is some trend right now in Europe?
It is definitely a voice that brings some change to these countries. It is notable in Serbia. It was notable in Moldova because the young voters are mostly pro-European voters. It is visible in Bulgaria. However, as we discussed, it is unclear where these voters will go. However, these are pro-European voices from what we gather at the moment. So yes, the new younger generation is bringing some change to the politics of the region.
And we have to end up here. Thank you so much for joining us in News in Depth, Paweł.
Always a pleasure.
Paweł Trzaskowski, TVP World Balkans Correspondent, and thank you for joining us in News in Depth.